Okay, so you can start off by lying down. And I don't mind if you have your legs long or knees bent. So if you've got anything at all going on with your lower back, it's generally better to have your knees bent because that encourages the psoas muscle, which attaches from the top of the thigh through to the lower back, the lumbar vertebra. It allows that not to be taut, but not to be engaged, so that it can relax, so that the lower back can lengthen. So that's why often having your knees bent helps your lower back. Check there's no. Good. Okay, so take a couple of bigger than usual breaths. So as you're breathing in, you really feel the breath moving into the body. And as you breathe out, you feel your body moving into the ground. Do that a few times. And do what you can to soften across your forehead, around your eyes, cheeks, jaw, throat, all the places where there might be a little bit of surface tension. And then start to take an interest in your breathing, how and where you're breathing this morning. So do what you can to not interfere with the breathing. So that's often not very easy. Do what you can to just observe the breath. And then if you have got your legs long, bend your knees now, place your feet on the ground, and bring your hands onto your lower belly, somewhere where the middle fingers are resting around the belly button. Yeah, so two hands, middle fingers meet just above, just over the belly button, that sort of area. Middle fingers touching. And then as you're breathing, keep your focus in this area and notice that as you breathe in, either the pressure between the fingers could lighten or even they could move away from each other as the belly expands. And then as you breathe out, that pressure increases, or maybe they just come back together if they've come apart. But there is this change in contact with the fingers as you breathe. So you're not moving the hands purposefully. The belly and the breath are moving the hands. So this is drawing your attention to the changing shape and size and movement, expansion in the belly as you breathe. And for a few breaths, see if you could exaggerate the moving back of the fingers. So see if you could breathe out a little bit more fully. Yeah, so you breathe in, and as you breathe out, keep breathing out, keep inviting the belly to drop back towards the spine, which would bring the fingers more in contact with each other. So just do that for 2 or 3 breaths, and then return to a less effortful breath. And then shift your hands up a bit higher so that the palms of your hands are resting around these lower side ribs, and the middle fingers this time are resting just below the breastbone. Yeah, so in the middle of your torso, sort of just below the chest. This is where the diaphragm begins, here in the front. So try not to add anything for now. Just sense what you feel here. Try and stay relaxed in the shoulders and the neck. And then again for a few breaths, focusing on the exhalation, try and encourage those fingers to push a little more into each other by exhaling more fully, or lengthening your exhale. Try and stay soft in the shoulders. And then just return to your normal breathing, but keep the hands where they are. So these breathing practices like this, it's a fine balance between inviting the diaphragm to relax and expand and move in more directions, and adding tension to the diaphragm. So just see if you can feel the difference. There's a way of breathing like this when you're focusing on the belly or the ribs, where it feels like the increased movement of the diaphragm brings a feeling of ease or expansion, not tension. Great, okay, we can leave that for now and just let your fingers float up towards the ceiling. So you've got your arms above your shoulders. Breathe in and out here. Feel the weight of the shoulders heavy on the ground. And then one arm at a time, reach that arm up towards the ceiling. Feel that shoulder blade peel away from the floor, and then plant that shoulder blade very firmly without pressing, just by resting the weight of the arm. And then try the other side. So you lift one arm up, feel the shoulder blade slide and reach away from the ground, and then it lands very heavily on the ground. And then the same on the other side. Can you notice which parts of your body engage in order to lift one shoulder off the floor? And depending on what's going on with your shoulders, it might be different from one side to the other. Particularly if you've had a shoulder injury, often we protect parts of the shoulder and use auxiliary muscles to move the shoulder. Think about the space between the top of your shoulder and your earlobe staying the same. And then try both hands together, reaching and dropping. Good. Then keep your arms up, but let your shoulders rest, and bring your palms together. So you've created a triangle with your fingertips pointing up towards the ceiling. Now keep your pelvis and your knees quiet, so they're not going to move, but you're going to, and start off very small, take your hands and arms and shoulders from left to right. But you're not going to allow the palms to slide across one another, and you're not going to allow your elbows to bend. You're going to keep your elbows straight and your palms stuck. So that means you might not go so far, but you will move through the rib cage and the spine. Keep breathing, take it slow so that as you're rolling the back ribs across the ground and you're breathing, you feel different parts of the ribs pressing into the floor, the muscles in between the ribs getting a little bit of a massage. You can let your head roll with your arms. So do that actually, let your head roll with your arms. So you stay looking at your hands. And then keep your head in the middle as you move your, so you're differentiating now between the head and the rest of the spine. So keep your head in the middle. And then could you, gets a bit tricky here, could you keep your head in the middle, but follow your hands with your eyes? Yeah, so your head's staying still, but your eyes are following your hands. Try and keep your head still. And then bring it all back together again. So your head, your eyes, and your hands are all moving in the same direction with each other. Good, and then come back to the middle. Let your hands come apart, but keep your arms up, let your shoulders drop. And then hug your knees in towards you. Okay, so we're going to do, I think, if you were here on Tuesday, you'll have done this on Tuesday, but otherwise you wouldn't have done this with me before. You're going to, doesn't mean you haven't done it, I've done it with someone else. You're going to keep your right leg folded in. Yeah, so take hold of your right leg, your right knee, and notice what the contact is like with your lower back and the floor. So often we do things and I ask you not to engage your belly muscles or your core or your abdominals, but this time you will, because what I want you to do is start, without bringing the foot to the floor, start to lengthen the left leg away and only go so far. So your foot will be reaching slightly above the floor. Only go so far that you can keep your contact with the lower back and the floor the same. If the pelvis starts to tilt and your lower back starts to come away from the floor, you've gone too far. Yeah? So a couple of things that might be helpful here. The further away from the floor you have your leg, yeah, the bigger the angle is, the lighter it will be, so the easier it will be. The closer you have your foot to the floor, the heavier the leg will be, so the harder it will be. So I'll leave that with you. So you're keeping the right knee folded in, and you're trying to keep the lower back the same contact with the floor as you lengthen the left leg away, hovering it above the floor or hovering it quite a distance above the floor. Oh dear. Unhappy Nelson in the house. Okay, and then come back to where you started. Hug both knees for a while. And then hold on to your left leg and do the same with the right leg. So notice the contact with the lower back and the floor. Start to lengthen that leg away, but you'll have to engage somewhere in the front of the body to prevent the lower back from rising off the floor. So those of you that do Pilates, this might be quite similar to something that you do in Pilates. Good. And then again, hug both your knees in. This time, let your belly be really soft. Put your right hand on your right knee, left hand on your left knee. And just in time with your breath now, lengthen the arms as you inhale and fold the knees in as you exhale. And this time your lower back will be changing its contact with the floor. As you inhale, the belly can rise. Good. And then drop your feet to the floor. That's it. And roll all the way over and come onto your hands and knees. So you can spread your fingers, place them on the mat, and then look at the mat between your hands. And keep looking at the same point on the mat, and then push into the floor so that your shoulders widen, the shoulder blades slide away from each other, and then do the opposite, unpush, and so you feel your upper chest, your upper back drop towards the ground. And just go between those two. So you might or you might not notice that this is the same movement of the shoulders that you were doing when you were lying on the floor and you were reaching and unreaching. The same movement, but of course you flipped yourself over. Great. And then you can bring in the rest of the body, so it becomes more like a cat pose or cat-cow. So as you're pushing the hands into the floor, pull your belly back and drop your head and think about bringing your pubis towards your face. That's it. And then when you unpush through the arms, you let your chest and your belly drop towards the floor, and that's it, you'll lift your gaze, and it will be more like the back of the head and the sacrum are moving towards each other. So oftentimes we're quite good at arching in the upper back, but not so good at rounding in the lower back. Yeah, so we often see this sort of, if you can just look at the screen, you can see how uneven this curve is. Yeah, I've got a big curve in my upper back and my lower back looks quite flat. So I'm going to try and ease off what I'm doing through the shoulders, but exaggerate more what I'm doing with the belly to try and make this curve more evenly spread. Quite interesting doing it on the screen, because it's more about what you sense. So I was just showing you those differences, but actually try and sense into your own body rather than looking at it and see how it feels like, where it feels like that curve is spread evenly in both directions, from the crown of your head to your tailbone. Keep breathing. Great. And then just drop down onto your forearms now, onto your elbows, and that will take the pressure off your wrists. And try and stay resting for your elbows, not pushing, because you could push here, could you, or you could just rest. And then see if you can find that movement just of the pelvis. You're rolling the pelvis over the thigh bones. And I don't mind what you do with your head. You could either look at the floor, or you could drop your head and look back between your legs. That might be more comfortable actually if you drop the head and look back. Okay, great. And then you can push all the way back, come back on your hands and come into kneeling. And if it's difficult to kneel, get something to kneel onto if you can. So you might want 3 or 4 cushions so your bottom's in contact with something. If it's just not happening for you kneeling today, then you could sit in a different fashion. And then when you've found a position that you're okay to sit in, I want you to look for that same movement of the pelvis. So you're rolling the pelvis over the thighs. Yeah, so first of all, just think about the pelvis. And then you could see, could you bring the rest of the spine in? So as you roll more towards the back of your pelvis, could you soften in the breastbone and drop your head? And then as you roll more towards your sit bones, you could allow that to grow throughout the spine, lift your gaze up and back and deepen. So rather than trying to make your spine do something, be really sensitive to how the pelvis can push and pull on the spine, and see if you can feel that force traveling through the spine all the way into the skull. It doesn't have to be a big movement. Great. Okay, and then we're going to stay sitting, but this time I'm going to come into this position where we've got our hands behind us and feet out front. Might be a relief to some of you. And we're going to see if we can find that same movement here. So you're rolling the pelvis forwards and backwards, and again sensing how that movement could affect the whole spine and the ribs and the shoulders. Good, so your head can change, your gaze can shift. Great. Good. And then bring your hands forward so you come more towards sitting on your sit bones, and bring your arms around your knees like that. Okay. And then could you do the same thing here? So you roll, you just come a little bit more upright, but you're still looking for that cat pose variation. Good. And then when you next come into this place where your arms are straight, just going to creep forward so you can see me. Could you stay round in the back, but come more towards the tips of your toes? That's it. So still round through the back. Your belly is being pulled back towards the spine. Your chin's probably down towards your chest. And maybe you could take your feet off the floor, but could you stay round through the back? So once you take your feet off the floor, there may be an inclination to do this because your body, your nervous system is trying to stop you from falling over. But you're not going to fall over because you're well balanced. And if you did fall over, you'd only roll backwards. So see if you can keep that sense of roundness through the spine. And then that might be enough for you, or you might want to try and fall over or roll backwards. So you might want to carry on going back and swing your legs over. And just see where you get to. Great. Just a bit of fun. So you need to start off in that flexed, folded place. And then maintain that as you roll. Good. Nice, Anna. Think of yourself like a ball. Yeah, momentum can help. Great. So the next time you come to sitting, have a little rest, and you can either rest, you know, leaning forward into your legs, or you can rest back. And then we're going to, when you're ready, try that first bit again. So you hold on to your legs, drop your chin, think about rolling back towards your sacrum, your feet come off the floor, and maybe you could hold on to the back of your thighs here. And then you could either stay here, or you might want to have a go at letting go of your legs. Can you still breathe? And then when you need to come up, pull yourself up. Feel the relief in your abdominals as you come forwards. And then you can try that again. So you start off in that rounded position, holding onto your legs for support, but you're still engaged here somewhat. And then you can either keep hold of your legs, or you could have a go at supporting yourself just with your muscular strength and breathing. Good, coming back up when you need to. And then you can either carry on resting, or if you want to have one more go at that, you could have another go. So holding onto your thighs, dropping your chin, rolling back towards your sacrum, coming onto the tips of your toes, maybe holding onto your legs, maybe releasing. Breathing. Good. And then coming back up, and we're all going to just to ease out the back and the front of the body, coming to some kind of cross-legged position, and then just lean forwards a little bit. So leaning forwards might just be dropping the chin, you might get your fingers onto the floor, you might be able to walk the hands forward. So whatever is accessible to you. Drop your head wherever you are. Good. And then bringing yourself back around onto your hands and knees. It's whole family yoga going on in your house, Anna. Morning. And then tucking your toes under like this. Drop your head and keep your heels upright. So they could splay out like this, couldn't they? Or towards each other. You're going to keep them upright, keep them parallel. And then take your bottom back towards your heels and come forwards again. Keep the head dropped. The head's hanging off the neck. And then when you take your bottom back towards your heels, you're going to come into downward facing dog. So you might find that you need to bring your hands a bit closer towards your knees in order to be able to rest more fully into your arms, because you're going to use primarily your leg muscles to lift you up and back. And do that 2 or 3 times. Come back onto your hands and knees. Keep your head heavy the whole time. At no point do you need to shorten the back of your neck. Seeing if you can use the powerhouse of your legs to lift the pelvis up and just stay resting through your arms. Head heavy. And after your next downward facing dog, walk your hands back towards your feet and come into a standing forward bend. Head heavy. And in your standing forward bend, you could either just be, have your knees slightly soft. You could either hang over your legs and hold onto your arms, or you could rest your elbows on your thighs, or even your hands on your thighs. Depends how you're feeling today. Head heavy wherever you are. So because you've got your knees soft, and if you drop the weight into your heels, you'll be able to feel that curve through the lower back that we've been exploring today. But because you're the opposite position to gravity, you don't need to engage the abdominal muscles. This is a passive flexion, a passive forward bend. But see if you can feel a sense of length in the lower back. And then when you're ready, very slowly, incrementally unravel, stacking the vertebrae one on top of the other, and bringing your head up last. So you're coming into Tadasana or standing mountain pose. So when you come to standing, just let your shoulders drape, rest on your ribs. Think about your feet being underneath your hip joints. So these aren't our hip joints, these are our, what are they called again? Greater trochanter, I think this is called, the bit that sticks out the top of the thigh bone. Your hip joints are actually here, yeah, either side of the front of your pelvis. So think about your feet being hip width apart. If that's really uncomfortable, take them a bit wider, but you don't need them together. The only reason you stand with your feet together is if you're being asked to by a yoga or ballet instructor. There's no function in having your feet next to each other, unless you're standing on a really small path, I guess. No functional reason to do that. Okay, and then with your feet comfortably spaced apart, just check where your gaze is, so where your horizon is, and try not to look further up or further down, but you're going to shift the weight from the left foot to the right foot. So your pelvis, your shoulders, your head will sway from left to right. And you'll keep looking forwards, but you know, your gaze will go a little bit from left to right. A bit like you're on a ship, a very gentle swell. And as you're shifting the weight from the left foot to the right foot, just notice, does it feel more familiar to rest the weight through one foot than the other? Does it feel more stable through one side than the other? And also, do you share the weight through the same parts of the left foot as the right foot? Or does it change? And then settle the weight where it feels like it's most evenly spread between the two sides. Soften the shoulders. Okay. And then reach your right arm down towards the outside of the right knee. And let the left shoulder come up, but don't lift the left shoulder. Just as you do that, going down towards the right, you'll lengthen through the left. And then stay here. And again, shift the weight between the left and the right foot. And see if you can tell on which foot and leg does it feel most helpful for you to find this side bend. So resting the weight through which foot makes it more helpful to reach down the right side of the leg. You don't have to tell me, just sense into it. Good. Come back to the middle. Notice how the weight is shared now between your 2 feet. And then we'll do a similar thing on the other side. So you reach down towards the outer left knee. Stay there and shift the weight from the left to the right foot. Does it feel more helpful one side than the other? Good, and then come back to the middle. We're going to go to the first side again, down to the right, and this time you've got an option. As you lengthen the right arm down, you could also try reaching the left arm up and over. Yeah, so you're creating a bit more length down that left side. And same thing again, shifting the weight, sensing, does it feel easier to reach when the weight is in the left foot or the right foot? Good. So come back up to the middle, reach with your left arm up towards the ceiling and then let that pull you up. Bring the arm down. And then try the same on the other side, reaching up with the right arm. And then again, shifting the weight as you slide the left hand down the outer edge of the thigh. And then when you come back to the middle, reach with your right arm up towards the ceiling, let that pull you up, bring the hand down again. Lovely. Everyone doing okay? Good. So take a step forwards now with your right foot. I might just lower my screen so you can see a bit more of me, hopefully. Maybe all of me would be good. Okay, so you're going to take a step forward with your right foot and then bring your fingertips onto your shoulders. Good. And just soften your knees to start with. Soften both knees so you can feel the weight shared between the 2 feet. Okay. And then you're going to keep your knees fairly soft, but keep your pelvis facing forward. So your knees, your legs, your feet, your pelvis stay facing forwards, but you're going to rotate from the waist up. That's it. Good. And then the next time your right elbow is facing forwards, you're going to shift your pelvis back as you fold over your front hip and straighten your back leg. Okay, so you're going to keep turning towards the left, and you come down and maybe let that right arm drop, and you can either keep the left fingers where they are or lay your arm down your side, or you might be able to lift that arm up towards the ceiling. So you've got your front knee bent and your back leg straight. Breathe. Send the weight into your back heel. Good. And then bend the front knee a bit more. Bring your right elbow or forearm to rest on the thigh. And then rotate around so you're now parallel facing the floor. And just let your left arm hang. And you can swing it in all kinds of directions. Like a pendulum. Breathe. Okay. And then, so you can tell you can swing your arm in loads of different directions. And you can use any of these directions to bring you into the rotation or into Parsvakonasana. So you could try reaching the arm forwards and then circling it around. And you could come back the way you came in, let the arm swing, and you could try reaching the arm back. Try looking towards your hand with your eyes. That affects your balance though. So if you feel really unsteady, you can bring your gaze back, but you could slowly try shifting your gaze towards your hand. Or you could go very slowly and just keep watching your hand as you go. So loads of different directions you could try, but at some point I want you to then try the coming up at 90 degrees. So you keep following your hand with your gaze. Just see how far you come to now. And then you could keep, so your back leg is straight, resting the weight into the back heel. You could either keep your front arm resting on your thigh, or you could have a go at letting that arm hang. Great, and then when you want to come up, come back to here, roll back down to face the floor, bend both your knees, drop into your heels to bring yourself up. Okay, good. So before we do the other side, let's just stand and do a little bit of that weight shifting again, from left to right. So we're bringing our conscious attention into what it feels like to weight bear more through one foot than the other. So we're bringing something that's generally unconscious. We generally do rest the weight more into one foot than the other. We're bringing the unconscious into the conscious, which might make us more aware of when we're doing it, but actually in terms of how the nervous system works, it's much more intelligent than our thinking brain. So if the nervous system works out that, oh, actually, it's much less effortful to weight bear more evenly through both feet, we'll just gradually start to do that more. Obviously, we've got a lifetime of habits that we need to let go of as well. Okay, so then we'll settle the weight more evenly, perhaps between the 2 feet. And then we'll step the left foot forwards. That's right, isn't it? I think we did the right last time. Left foot forwards. Bend both your knees. Both knees soft. Fingertips on shoulders. And then keeping the pelvis, the knees, the feet facing forwards. Fingertips on your shoulders. Start to turn from the waist up. Keep breathing. Good. So the next time you've turned your face, shoulders and elbows towards the right, yeah, so you've got your left elbow facing over your left knee, you're going to keep orientating yourself towards that direction, but then fold over your front leg. And as you do that, as you fold over your front leg, you're going to straighten the back leg and shift your pelvis back. As you do that, it will help you to lift the top side of the pelvis and then let that bottom arm hang and do what you want with the top arm. You don't want to rest it on your side. You want to reach it up towards the ceiling. Maybe you could also lift your gaze towards the hand. Keep breathing. Rest the weight into the heel of the back foot. Good. And then turn back towards the front and rest your left elbow on your left thigh and let your right arm hang. So then we come back to this sort of elephant trunk-like swinging of the free arm, all kinds of directions. Maybe you want to circle it. And then we carry on in one of these directions, following the hand with the eyes, and start to circle the arm up towards the ceiling. Go slow, keep breathing, keep some attention in your feet. Try a different direction. And then at some point you can try the 90-degree direction where you take the arm straight out to the side. And then when you're here, you can either keep the arm where it is, the supporting arm, or you could let that arm go and you find support from somewhere else. And maybe you can let that arm hang towards the floor. Good. And when you want to come back up, first of all, rest yourself on the thigh again, rotate back down towards the floor, drop into the heels, bend the knees, and unravel all the way up into standing. And then bring your feet back so they're parallel again, hip width apart, with your mat out in front of you. So in a moment we're going, oh actually no, we'll do that when we're in dog pose. So we're going to roll back down into a forward bend. So drop your chin, soften the knees, let the breastbone drop back. Either walk the hands down the legs or just let the arms drop. And you're going to keep going until you can bring your hands onto the floor, and then lazily swing and place one hand then the other. So you walk your hands forwards into a comfortable downward facing dog. And then in your dog pose, bend alternate knees. Good. And then when you're ready, come all the way down into child pose. So in your child pose, make yourself comfortable. If you need to take your knees wider, do so. If you need to find support for your head or your bottom, do so. And then nice and easily, just bring yourself to lying on your back. Good, so once you arrive on your back, have a couple of breaths. You've been working quite hard this morning. So enjoy that support from the floor. Enjoy that lack of muscular support that you need here. And then lengthen your left leg. Keep your right knee bent. And in a very small, easy way, just swing your right knee from left to right a few times. Small way, small distance, sensing the quality of that movement in the hip joint. And along this journey, without looking at your leg, although you might be able to see it through your periphery vision, can you sense the place where it feels like the weight of that leg is dropping down into the hip and down into the foot? So in other words, where that knee is most upright. And when you found that place, start to increase the pressure through that foot while staying really undone through the rest of the body. And if you manage to do that, you'll feel that the right side of the pelvis starts to lift or feel lighter, but the weight will increase through the left side. You get this little rotation as the right side of the pelvis either becomes lighter or even comes off the floor. The right knee stays upright. Good. and then stop, and you can either lengthen both your legs out or fold both your legs in. And then do the same on the other side. So you'll lengthen your right leg out, fold your left knee in. And then in a very small, lazy, easy way, swing the left knee inwards and outwards, sensing the quality of that movement in the hip joint. And you're looking for a quality of depth in the hip joint, fluidity. This can be a really small movement. And then again, look for that place where it feels like the weight of the leg drops most easily into the floor. And then settle there, and like you did on the other side, then start to increase the pressure through the left foot, and the result of that will be your left knee reaches away from you over the foot. The left side of the pelvis may start to feel lighter, and the right side could start to feel heavier. If you find that the right side of the body and the pelvis feels lighter, it's telling you that you're engaging through the right side. So back off, do less, go slower. See if you can stay really undone through everything on the right side. The only effort you're exerting is through the left leg and possibly the left buttock. Everything else stays undone. And you roll into and out of this small rotation. Shoulders heavy. Breathing easy. Good. And the next time you rest the left side of your pelvis down, stay there. And once again, you've got this option. You could either lengthen both legs out or fold your knees in, one or the other. Great. And then come back to what we did at the beginning. So have your feet on the floor, knees bent, and your hands resting on your belly with your fingertips lightly touching around your belly button. Try not to change your breathing, but take an interest in the changing contact with your fingers as your belly changes shape with the breath. So I say try not to change your breathing. Your breathing may well change, but be as uninvolved as you possibly can. Let the shoulders be as relaxed as possible. Maybe you want to reposition your elbows to assist that. And then lift your hands a bit higher. So you've got your palms over these side ribs here and your middle fingers resting just below the breastbone. Or for those of you that do wear a bra, you know, sort of where the bra strap would come. If you don't wear a bra, I'm sure you could guess where that is. And again, just position your elbows somewhere where your shoulders feel easy. And sense the change in contact with the fingers as you easily inhale and exhale. Soft across the forehead, around your eyes. And then it's up to you. If you want to keep your hands resting on your body, that can be quite helpful in terms of breath awareness and also helping to soften the diaphragm and the muscles in the belly and between the ribs. You can do so, or you can just let your arms rest either side of you. And you can either keep your knees bent or straighten your legs now, or even take your legs and rest them over a piece of furniture, your lower legs over a chair or a sofa. That can be quite nice for your lower back. Maybe take a couple of deeper than usual breaths. As you exhale, really feel the full weight of your head, shoulders, ribs, pelvis, legs, feet, arms and hands. Have a sense that your front groin, so where your thighs enter the pelvis, a sense of it being very deep there, deep and soft, spacious. A sense that the head of your femurs, your thigh bones, are heavy, weighty, dropping down towards the floor. And also now sense into your eyes, into your eyeballs, and see if you can have a sense of the weight of your eyeballs and that they're also dropping back into the eye sockets. And then rub your palms together, make them nice and warm. And bring your hands to rest over your eyes. So the heel of your hand rests on the lower eye socket, and your fingertips might cross over one another on your forehead. And if you make a seal it will become very dark. See if you can seal the palm of the hand over the eye socket so it becomes very dark. And then see in this darkness, could you open your eyes whilst keeping a sense of your eyeballs resting a long way back in the eye socket? So even with your eyes open, the eyes can relax. Great. And then you'll probably close your eyes for this bit. You can just slowly stroke the hands down your face. And as the hands move over the cheeks and the nose and the lips, maybe the throat and the neck, you can allow those muscles to soften, maybe even down the front of your body, around your hips. So of course you can stay lying down for as long as you like, but I will end my teaching there. Thank you very much for joining me.